So recently there's been quite a lot of things happening in the Amazon merch world, quite a lot of news, changes and updates happening with the platform that I wanted to address. I also wanted to share a few polls that I did on my YouTube page, on my community feed on there, and I also wanted to ask you for your opinion and what's been happening to you specifically. So first of all, I know some of you are probably going to be asking what this is. It's not a green screen, it's literally just a piece of wallpaper that looks like Amsterdam. So no, I'm not using a green screen from now on. I'm just traveling at the moment. I'm in Holland right now, but only for a short time. And one thing that was surprising a few days ago was this wave of tier downs. So we've always heard about tier ups. That's always been a thing. It's part of the Amazon Merch program. If you get enough sales and if you upload enough designs, you are eligible for a tier up. And once you do get tiered up, you're able to upload more to the marketplace. Tier up's always been a thing, but we've never really heard about people getting tiered down before. And there's two kind of theories or two reasons for this happening, I believe, at least, after speaking to multiple people, doing a bit of research into it myself. And the first thing I did is just put a poll on my YouTube community page where I asked, has your Amazon Merch account been tiered down recently? And I gave the options of yes, no, and I don't have an account. Now 14% in this case voted that yes, they have been tiered down, 49% said no, and 38% said they don't have an account, which is out of 367 votes. And that means that about 50 people were tiered down just out of this little poll that I did on my YouTube page. So it must be quite a lot of people that this is happening to. I thought, to be honest, that the amount of people would be lower, like the percentage would be lower of people voting. But unfortunately, I'm sorry if it happened to you. Unfortunately, it's happening to quite a lot of people. And at first, from seeing the discussions in my Discord server and also through speaking to a few people in DMs, I thought this is only happening to people who have bought an Amazon Merch account. So in case you didn't know, some people out there are selling, for example, high tier accounts like tier 10,000 Amazon Merch accounts, which I don't recommend you buy any of those, by the way. This is one of the reasons, but I'll make a separate video about that in a little while. But I thought it's people who are buying a high tier account and then they're starting out with 0 sales, 0 designs on there, and then Amazon Merch kind of notices after a while, well, this account is tier 10,000, but it's only had like 50 sales, for example. And in that case, 50 sales, that would be equivalent to tier 100 instead. And that's, I thought, is the main reason. People who've bought an account, they're in a high tier, but their sales don't reflect that tier, so they get tiered down to the level of sales that they have. But that's not the only reason, seemingly. And people, this is also like a bit of a news flash, and people have their own theories about this. I don't think there's like a factual thing, like a concrete answer that we can give, which Amazon would approve or acknowledge. This is just what people are guessing based on what we hear reported from the people that have been tiered down. But then also a lot of people were saying that they were getting tiered down because the design slots were not filled in, and that's obviously a little bit scarier also for people who have a normal Amazon Merch account who got accepted normally and who don't have their slots filled in. So here the example would be if you're in tier 10,000 but you only have 1,000 designs, then you might get tiered down to tier, I think that would be tier 2,000 then, if you have enough sales. And yeah, that's obviously quite scary. So I wanted to find out, is that actually the case, that with a normal Amazon Merch account that hasn't been purchased, you can also be tiered down? So I did a poll just a day ago where I asked, for those of you who were tiered down, did you buy your Amazon Merch account or not? And I said, I gave his options, yes, I did buy the account and got tiered down, or no, I did not buy the account, but I still got tiered down. And I also gave an option for people who didn't get tiered down whatsoever or don't have an Amazon Merch account, so they can still vote and see the results in this case. And surprisingly, out of the people that voted that they were tiered down, it's half and half. So half the people that were tiered down had a purchased account or a normal account. We have 14% for yes, I did buy the account, and 15% for no, I did not buy the account. The rest of people, 71%, voted that they didn't get tiered down and they don't have an Amazon merch account. This is out of 260 votes, so it's a smaller pool of people that voted in this case, and I don't know how accurate the responses are, if people understood the question properly, but it's interesting that there must be a few people out there at least who have a normal Amazon merch account that were tiered down, and in that case, it might be the case, or it might be the reason that their design slots were not filled in. However, there's an alternative theory here, another option, which, again, I don't know if this is true, but I've heard it now in a few comments on YouTube, and you share your thoughts as well in the comments below of what you've heard. I'm really curious about this topic because I think it would be a shame if Amazon is tearing down people that haven't filled out their slots, especially if they're in a really high tier where it's very difficult to fill in your slots, especially without automation. But yeah, so the third kind of option or alternative theory is that this is people who got into Amazon merch through the Amazon Influencer Program. Now, I didn't even know that's a thing, but it seems to be Adam Young is in the Amazon Influencer Program, for example, and he's also been involved in that community. And it seems like he's heard from some people that they got into Amazon merch through that influencer program. There must have been an easier way to get in, and they got access to a tier 1000 account straight away for some reason. And those people then got tiered down as well after a while. So Amazon, again, cracking down on people that are in a tier that's too high for their level of sales, or perhaps the level of designs as well. So yeah, it could be that you purchase the account and that the sales don't reflect the tier, or that you don't have enough designs uploaded to have a point or a reason to be in a high tier, or it could be that it is people who got in through the influencer program and who got access to a high tier account straight away for some reason. That seems to be what I've found out in terms of why people are getting tiered down. Again, I hope it didn't happen to you. If it did, I'm sorry. Let me know in the comments if one of those options applies to you, or why you think that tier downs are currently happening. So the second thing that happened recently, this is probably about 3 weeks ago now, but it's still relevant if you're selling on Amazon merch or you're doing your research there, is that Amazon changed the way we see BSR. Or they kind of reverted back to the original form of BSR that we always used to see up until last year. I think back in September last year, Amazon Merch introduced a new category called the Climate Pledge Friendly category for clothing. And that made things quite confusing with BSR, because beforehand, and this is what it is again now, like this is what it's changed back to, beforehand, we only had the clothing, shoes, and something else category. So the clothing category had all of our Amazon merch shirts in there, and that meant you got a good feel for which BSR means good sales and which BSR means lower sales. And when they introduced the Climate Pledge Friendly category, the BSRs kind of split. So some Amazon merch shirts were in this new, smaller category, Climate Pledge Friendly, and a lot of them at the same time remained in the clothing and shoes category. But because this category of Climate Pledge Friendly was smaller, there wasn't as many products in it, that meant a lot of merch shirts suddenly got a very low BSR, but that didn't reflect that they got more sales. It's just a different category. Just like the novelty t-shirts category, for example, is also a lot smaller, and that's why your shirts will have a lower BSR in the novelty t-shirts category than they would do in the clothing category. But if you don't know what BSR means, I'm sorry if this is confusing, but yeah, for those people selling on Amazon merch, basically you want to know that now all of the shirts are back to the same category. They're all in the clothing category again, which means a lot of BSRs will suddenly appear higher than they were before, but the sales, essentially, the sales of those shirts are still the same. So whether they had a 20,000 BSR in the Climate Pledge category, or if they now have a 100,000 BSR in the clothing category, sales are the same, because now it's all back to the clothing category, and it will make things easier to understand in the future. Like, it is a good change, and I'm happy about this. It might just seem a bit weird at first if you've now been used to the Climate Pledge category being there as well. But it is good because now everything is in the same place and we don't have to check which categories it's actually in. Also, let me know in the comments down below if this is confusing you, or if you think it's a good change, like what's your opinion on this. And one more thing I wanted to kind of note or make you aware of right here is that this can also affect research tools, in the sense that they will still have some shirts indexed in the database in the old category. So you might be finding some shirts with a seemingly low BSR, but if you click on them, they should now appear back in the clothing category because they've been switched over, but maybe the research tool hasn't really updated the database yet. So you might see some confusing results and some research tools as well because they're kind of lagging behind with this update. So that's one thing I wanted to make you aware of. But yeah, I hope that makes sense. If you had noticed a change in BSR and you weren't sure what's going on, that's what happened. But it is a good change and it will make things easier in future once we get used to this old category once again.